Hi there, Michael Roy here. I'm a Senior Technical Marketing Manager on the vCloud Air team, and I'm here today to talk about using vCloud Air for development and testing of applications. We'll be doing a series of posts and videos that show how we can use a more compatible cloud, like vCloud Air, to deploy and test existing applications in an environment that matches your on-premises production. We'll take it a step further and we'll look at how we can get started with container technology using VMware's Project Photon. And we'll wrap it all up with a post on how to use this technology in vCloud Air to implement like a DevOps model with continuous integration and build capabilities. In short, we'll show you how to use vCloud Air with your existing vSphere setup and how to take the first steps in developing a continuous integration operating model. So for this post today, we're going to be looking at something on the existing environment that many IT admins are going to need to think about in the near term. And that's upgrading production operating systems without disrupting production itself. So you may have heard recently, case in point here with Microsoft, recently announcing discontinuation of support for Server 2003 coming July 2015. So after like 12 years or so, it's pretty well due. And this is going to be a forcing function for many administrators to carefully think about how to best move forward. So what we're going to do here today, we're going to take that Server 2003 virtual machine, we're going to bring it to vCloud Air to test, we'll lock it down, we'll upgrade what we can, and then we'll move it back on-prem without disrupting any of the business operations. So for starters, what we're going to want to do is basically clone the VM. When you have a VM in vSphere, as you can see we've got here, I've got the VM picked out for us here. One of the nice things about vSphere is we do have the ability to do this non-disruptive clone operation. So I can very quickly just like right-click the VM and say clone. So we'll just go, we'll call it Win Server 2003 clone. And we'll put it in my folder here so that I can keep it with me. And I've got my production folder here. So actually, let's put it into the sandbox. We'll pick our compute. We'll give it the virtual data center resource pool. And we can pick the standard storage there. And we're going to leave this VM powered off. And that's important because when we do vCloud Connector to migrate the workload, we do need the VM to be powered off when we do this. So we'll go ahead and next. Confirm all the settings, looks good. And we'll go ahead and just finish that there. So that's going to run, and if we take a look at Sandbox here in a couple moments, that'll come on up. You can see we're creating the snapshot right now, and then we'll go ahead and do the clone. So that was pretty quick. You can see we're already done here, and we got our clone. So now what do we do? Well, now's the time to actually bring this over to vCloud Air. So now that it's been powered off. So our regular application's running, it's not disrupted. We have this cloned version. What we'll do is we're going to use vCloud Connector to go ahead and do the migration here. So I'm looking at my vSphere lab, but if we look at kind of the high level, we can see I've got a bunch of clouds connected here, and what we can do is we can basically choose our destination and do the migration. So in this case, we're using the VPC on demand in California. So this is, it's close to us. We're in California, so the transfer should be nice and quick. And if we take a look over here in vCloud Air itself, so I'm actually logged into the vCloud Air interface here, and we can see all the workloads that we've got over in this environment. So I've got a dev environment here, but I might actually want to put that into something different. I might want to put that into something that's not necessarily associated with other workloads. I want to have a nice contained kind of isolated space for it. So to do that, we have this construct of the virtual data center. And this really allows us to group VMs, edge gateways, and another networking construct within a kind of a single kind of a package. So what we'll do is we'll create a new virtual data center, and we'll call it Mike Testing, because that's what I'm going to do with it. We'll list some of the capacity limits that we have for this particular virtual data center, but we can increase those if we need to going forward. But this is just kind of the upper headroom that we've got. So we'll go ahead and create that. While that's creating, it's going to take a couple of moments because it's going to actually has to create the network, it'll create the gateway, etc. So while that's creating it, I'll come on back here and we'll take a look at that VM. So if I look at the vSphere lab here, I know where the VM is, but just to show you real quickly too, we have this great search functionality. So we have Win Server here, I'll do a search, and we see our two VMs here. So we'll take the clone, brings us right back into the regular vCloud connector user interface. And now we can see the VM is stopped, and it's in a position basically where we're able to start migrating it now. So we'll go over to here. We have our copy operation. So before we actually do the copy, the first thing that vCloud Connector wants to do is validate the environments that it has connection to basically ensure that we're going to be able to do a transfer operation, do a copy operation here. So we'll pick our VPC on demand, and we can see we've got some catalogs here. So I've got like a dev catalog and some other ones, but you know, I really wanted to put it in that test folder like we had, like I'm in the middle of setting up. So let's cancel this and let's take a look here. So we can see that's on its way. The data center was created, and we can start adding virtual machines. But I actually want to do something different. I want to create a catalog just for this purpose. This way, all of the stuff that we put into there, we can put templates for testing. We can have kind of an isolated space for all of our catalog templates, ISO media, and whatever. And you'll see why I want to do this in a little bit once we start getting to the media thing here. So we'll add another catalog. We'll call it Mike Testing. Pick any storage. I don't really want to share the catalog with anybody, so I'll just keep it to myself, and we'll finish. So quickly got a catalog put together, and we can jump in. We have our VMs, templates, media, etc. So obviously this catalog is empty, but let's go ahead and get some workloads pushed into it. So we'll do the copy here. So vCloud Connector has this feature where it checks all of the requirements for the workload before it does the transfer. So it's going to check things like making sure there's enough space, seeing if there's any CD-ROM attached, if there's a duplicate in the other environment, things like that. If there's enough network bandwidth to get from here to there, and if it makes recommendations in the case that there isn't. So we'll see what happens when we kind of get through this here. So we'll pick our virtual data center here. We're going to choose the VDC that we just created. Another validation step here. And what we're going to do is we're going to want to deploy this after we finish the copy operation. You do want to actually to go into our live environment that's running over there. So we'll choose a direct network. Now there's direct and fenced. Fenced is to isolate it so that it can't access anything else. We want to actually have it connected to a network, and that's just our default routed network. Now I don't want to do guest customization. We want to kind of leave that the guest as it is. And we will do a power on of the vApp after we actually do the deployment. So we'll validate again, make sure that everything's cool. Looks like it passed the validation step here, no problem, or the first one. So let's do the big validation. So we can see that there was a warning here. It's accessing, or it's telling us that there's high latency between our node running on-prem and within the cloud. We could configure UDT, which is a UDP-based transfer protocol, but we're going to just use HTTPS. This is going to go just fine. Run this a bunch. So it's not. This isn't. This won't fit. This won't work. This is just kind of a suggestion. But we'll go ahead and finish, and we can actually start the copy. So we can see it starting up in here, and if we come on down to our tasks, you can see it's starting here as well. So while that's going, what we're going to need to do is get all of our ducks in a row for actually doing the upgrade. One of those things is going to be actually uploading the ISO media that we're going to be installing. So to do that, we're going to come back to our cloud here. We'll go to our catalogs. We've got our testing catalog, and you can see it's actually in the middle of already. vCloud Connector is doing its remote tasks here. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to upload an ISO from our local machine. So we're going to click Media and Other, and we're going to go to Upload. So ISO is media, it's not a template. And we're going to choose the install file here. So we'll go Browse. Now this is great because if we had like a remote URL that we could just pull from publicly, we could add that here, which is great for things like Project Photon, and we'll show that in another example. But for now, we have the file locally, and we'll just go ahead and choose it. So it's on my desktop. We're just going to continue with the name. It's Server 2008 without Hyper-V. And I'll put my password in here. And we'll go. So this will bring up a dialog and give us some progress. So this is going to kick on, and this is going to move forward as well. We can see that the OVF export down here is already underway, and this is in the middle of uploading. So this is going to take a few minutes. I'm basically just going to pause, and we'll come back in the blink of your eye, in a few minutes from me, and we'll finish this off. Okay, so it looks like our copy has succeeded here. You know, this went through pretty quickly. So now that it's been uploaded, it's migrated over. If we come over to vCloud Air here and take a look at our testing VDC, we can see our virtual machines here. So we have our Win Server 2003 clone here, and we're good to go. So, you know, this thing isn't going to be on the internet yet because we just, you know, basically just turned it on. I didn't do any guest customization, so the IP hasn't been configured yet. We'll have to go in and manually configure that. So now we're on the internet. We can run updates. We can do whatever we need. Obviously, we can see that Windows is wanting to do some automatic updates. I'm not really interested in doing that. We do want to go ahead and actually upgrade this whole thing to Server 2008. So one other thing that we can do here, you know, we're going to upgrade this to Server 2008, of course. But in order to make sure that it gives us an ability to roll back, it's probably a good idea to take a snapshot. We can do that from within the vCloud Director interface, sure. We can also actually do it right from the vCloud Air portal itself. So if we come back over here to the VMs under my testing virtual data center, we can take this VM, it's already selected, go to Actions, and we can say Create Snapshot. So what this will really allow us to do is have that rollback point in time. So it's in the middle of doing that right now, and this allows us to do the installation without having to have any risk associated with that. So if we need to roll back, we can totally do that without really breaking anything in this particular case. And again, it shouldn't really matter because this is a clone of our production one anyway, but you know, it's good for us to always have kind of a rolling point in time that we need to go back to. Okay, so now we've got our ISO uploaded. We're about ready to upgrade our virtual machine. We've gone ahead and taken a snapshot, so we have a rollback point, and now we can upgrade. So the upgrade's pretty simple. Really, all we're going to be doing is attaching that ISO that we had uploaded. So to do that, we actually have to go to the vCloud Director interface. So what we'll do is we'll take a look at the VM here. We'll bring up the console just so that we've got it here. We can see, you know, we're using the VM, we're logged in. Let's get ourselves logged in here. Okay, so we're logged in, and we're seeing the VM here. So what we'll do is we'll bounce over to the Cloud Director, which takes us here, and it brings us to the VM. So you can see we've got our, you know, thumbnail here. What we basically just need to do again is just attach that ISO file. So we do that by selecting the disk here, and we can choose the ISO. So we'll insert, and once the ISO actually is attached, you'll see that the installation pops up just because of autoplay. You can see it's already up here for us, so we can actually go ahead and start the installation process and take it from there. So now we'll pause, we'll finish the installation on our own, we'll have a finished install when we're done, and then basically the last step is to move that over using vCloud Connector again. So I'll show you that real quick. We'll just do a pause and we'll let this thing finish. Okay, so our upgrade has completed. We have renamed it. One thing that we should note as well is it's important for us to actually update the operating system. So we can see here we're still using Server 2003 as our OS type. So I've clicked Manage in Cloud Director. That's going to bring us over here. I renamed the VM so that we know now it's Server 2008. And what we would do is we would adjust the properties to modify the operating system setting in here. So right now it's Server 2003. We've upgraded it to 2008. Let's go ahead and just add that. We did 2008 32-bit. I didn't go to R2, so we'll probably want to go to R2, but this is, you know, obviously just an example. So we'll say OK. It's going to save that setting here. And then what we would do is we would go back to vCloud Connector and finish off the migration from there. So if we come over to vCloud Connector, we would hit up our VPC On Demand in California, and let's look at our vApps. So we have our Server 2008 upgraded right here. Our operation is completed here, so we're good to actually start the transfer. So we can do a copy, and we can bring it back to our environment running on-prem in vSphere the same way that we brought it over. So we need a staging catalog for that, no big deal. We'll pick any old one that this can reach, And now we actually picked the cloud. So in this case, we're going to be choosing our local environment. So it's going to want to know things, which folder are you going to put this in. So I'm going to go ahead and put it into my sandbox folder. And we'll pick our cluster, any storage format that we want to have. I'm going to thin provision it, and then we'll choose our storage. Let's just go with number 2 here. And that's basically it. So it's going to do a quick validation step. We can then finish the operation and copy that on back. So let's do that. And that'll take a moment or two. We'll do the copy over. And then once it's over on-prem, then we would want to network that and do whatever we need to do from that perspective. So we'll finish that here, and then we'll wrap it up in just a moment. Okay, so we can see that our copy has completed here. We've got this VM. It's running on-prem. If we go over, we can just check it out, see it running here. Go to our VMs. You can see here we've now got the VM. Now it's wrapped up in a vApp, so it's a little different, but the VM is there. It's just one of the constructs of vCloud directors. Everything gets put into this vApp construct, but otherwise you have the VM here, and we can power it on, do whatever we need to, connect to all of our networks, etc., just like it was any other VM on-prem, because it is. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you're able to see how we were able to easily take a virtual machine running Windows Server 2003, bring that to vCloud Air, take a snapshot, do an upgrade, bring that back to on-prem, do that all without disrupting business operations, because as you can see here, our Server 2003 current VM is running just fine and dandy. So basically all we would do is power that down, power up the new one, change the IPs around, and away we go. So again, thanks so much for watching. And for more on the series to see how you can do dev and test with vCloud Air, come on over to vcloud.vmware.com. So thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. Again, my name is Mike Roy. Have yourself a good one. We'll see you again next time.